Hey everyone, it's Cris. I hope you all are doing well during this weird time that we're facing. Today I wanted to share a devotional with you about the hope that we can still find in God during these times. This time can be uncertain, maybe scary, or just plain tough for a lot of us, and we might find ourselves asking, why are things like this happening? Well, we're not always meant to know why these kinds of things happen, but we can know what God does do with what happens, and that brings me to the story of Joseph. And if you're not familiar with the story of Joseph, basically, Joseph was this guy who had a bunch of brothers, and he was his father's favorite child, and that obviously made his brothers pretty mad. And it actually was to the point where they threw him into a pit, sold him as a servant, and told his dad he had died. And this was obviously a terrible thing to happen to Joseph, but the story doesn't end there. Throughout the rest of Joseph's life, he found prosperity and favor with a lot of people he came across, and God had given him a gift to interpret dreams, which he actually used for the Pharaoh at one point, who had a dream that there was going to be 7 years of prosperity and then 7 years of famine, and in order to survive the 7 years of famine, they had to stockpile during the 7 years of prosperity. Now the Pharaoh loved this idea and put Joseph in charge and put him in high office over this. So as we can see, great things came from the terrible things that happened to Joseph. And Joseph summarizes this really well in Genesis 50:20 to his brothers. He says, "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring about that many people should be kept alive, as they are today." Not only did God use this in Joseph's life, but he used it to save the lives of a whole nation. God took what was bad that happened and used it for good. Another verse that talks about this is Romans 8:28, which says, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." Now, this all doesn't just apply to the coronavirus itself. Maybe you're stuck in quarantine, or your sports were canceled, or maybe you're a senior and you're missing out on your senior year. Whatever we may face, we can trust that God will turn it into something good. And not only can we have hope that he will do something good with it, but we can look around and find what God is already doing. Like the other day, I saw on the news that Elon Musk donated a ton of medical supplies to the US medical system. We can also be the good. We can look for ways we can help our neighbor, any good thing that we can do. But ultimately, we can trust that God will take whatever bad thing we face and use it for good. I hope this was an encouragement to some of you, and I hope you all have a great week.